In days gone by, when many settlers came to Ireland, one of the best ways into the heart of the island was through Lough Erne, and this can be seen on Devenish Island with its round tower. But it was some 4 miles away, almost 400 years before, in 450 AD, that St Patrick built the first church around a ford in the river. But it was St Columba who cursed the area, giving it the name Ford Mouth of the Curse. The area would go on to lose the name Ford Mouth of the Curse, instead being known as the Ford of the Horsemen. But it is more commonly known as Ballinamallard. As I mentioned before, St Patrick came to the area, and once here he placed the cross at Drumsonus in Kilskerry parish, but legend has it that the very next morning the cross was transferred to a site which would later become the old graveyard of Macra Cross, just off the Crachan Road. Like many other places, a castle was erected and a village grew around it. The village would become known as Ballinamallard. A castle like this one, which stood outside Ballinamallard, can be seen at Tully Castle. Jamestown House was built by the Landon family in 1740. The land on which it was built was granted to Captain James Landrum, who served with King William's forces at the Battle of the Boyne. For his services he was granted land at Murfield, which is on the county border between Fermanagh and Tyrone, and lies some 1 mile from the village of Ballinamallard. Around the same time when Jamestown House was constructed in 1740, the original house at Cornavanick was built. By 1817, the square block to the left had been erected. Cornavanick House and Jamestown House owned a significant amount of land around the Ballinamallard area, making them wealthy from commerce and as landlords to many tenants who lived outside the village. Things started to pick up in 1850 with the coming of the railway. This brought easy transport and prosperity to the local area. People from Enniskillen and even as far as Clonus could travel to Bundoran, would pass through Ballinamallard. As well as the coming of the railway in 1850, Cornavanick was purchased by Henry Richardson, who was a first cousin of Nicholas Archdale. This brought the Archdale connection to Ballinamallard. In 1839, the village of Ballinamallard and surrounding area had 2 landlords. One lived at Cornavanick and the other one lived at Jamestown. But it was some over 20 miles away on the crummy state that the third Earl of Erne discovered the potato blight. This would lead to the Great Famine of the 1840s. During the 1840s, the famine ravaged through Ballinamallard and surrounding areas, killing many poor farmers. Those who didn't die would emigrate to either Canada, America, New Zealand or Australia. Others would go to the workhouse either in Irvinstown or Enniskillen, depending on what side of the river you lived on. 41 years later, on the 10th of August 1891, Orange Peggy, Queen of Trasna, died at the age of 108. She lived alone in Trasna since the death of her husband and her 2 children.
Farewell to Peggy Elliott, my first love and the last. She lived on Trasna Island, well sheltered from the blast. She was the Queen of Trasna, defender of the faith, a true blue Ulster lady, unfeared to meet her death. She lived to be 100, and then for 8 years more, and many were the pilgrims who landed on her shore. She entertained them royally with tea and fresh made scones, while stories she would tell them of round towers and of bonds. She loved her lovely island, and she kept a lambag drum to batter out a welcome to all who chose to come. She roved to Enniskillen to get in fresh supplies. Her cot had nearly foundered as waves would fall and rise. At times she'd sell her produce including island eggs. She always took back oatmeal and 20 packs of fags. She didn't know brew the potting that kept her welcome sure. The mountain men that made it put it forninst her door. Her kitchen walls were spotless, outside were loads of peat. The bellows at the hearthside kept all the place in heat. Poor Peggy will be welcomed in heaven, that's for sure, for ne'er a travelling person was ousted from her door. They all supped and drank together, and all enjoyed her pottage. The birds were always nesting above her lowly cottage. While Peggy may be dead now, her memory is bright. We'll not forget her message. Fear God and do the right.
Ballinamallard had a turbulent history, from ambushes by neighbouring clans to the famine, but this could not prepare the village or the surrounding areas for what was to come next. For in the summer of 1914, Britain and her empire joined the war against Germany and Austria-Hungary. One man, William Woods, emigrated to Canada when the war broke out and joined the Royal Canadian Highlanders. In 1916, a band of men rose up in Dublin against the British and the British Empire, leading to an event known as the Easter Rising. But it was between 1918 and 1922 that the island of Ireland fell into a civil war. During this time of unrest, an event occurred that would involve two men from Ballinamallard. The first man was called Joseph Abraham of Curran, and the other was called William James McFarland of Coultra. They were among a group of 18 air specialists involved in what would become known as the Clonus Massacre. 22 years after the war to end all wars, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, leading to the Second World War. Many men from Ballinamallard went to work on the nearby RAF Coastal Command bases located at Castle Archdale, Killalees and St Angelo. During the Second World War, Tommy Fisher, a Leitrim man who joined the RAF at 18, had been captured by the Japanese at the fall of Singapore. In 1957, Fisher's engineering was starting to become a big thing within the village. Ballinamallard and its surrounding area were starting to prosper, but unfortunately in that year the railway station finally closed its doors and the last train departed from Ballinamallard on to Enniskillen. The old train station in Ballinamallard can still be seen at Rascal's Play Station, but if you're looking for a great example of an old train station that closed in the 1950s, the best one is here, Brookborough. It belonged to the Clare Valley Railway. And this is a great example of what the old railways used to look like, and it still has its track and two carriages, and the old train station is still here as it was in those days. 24 years after the end of the Second World War, Northern Ireland fell into a time of terror that would become known as the Troubles, and it would sadly last for 30 years. Throughout the dark times of the Troubles, something good and positive came out of Ballinamallard, and this was the rally driver Bertie Fisher. Unfortunately, in 2001, tragedy struck when, in a helicopter flying back to his house at Killalees, it crashed, killing him and his two children. Before we go, we must mention some of the famous sons of the village. The first being Richard Kipling, whose name can be seen on the sign as you drive into the village. The other name on the sign you may notice is another famous son with connections to the village. It is the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Stanley Baldwin, who was the Prime Minister between the First and Second World War. The third famous son with connections to the village is the explorer Sir Alexander Armstrong. A plaque in his honour can be seen in the Church of Ireland. Since it has been founded by St Patrick, Ballinamallard and the surrounding areas of Trory, Whitehill, Crahan, Killymitten and Co have gone from strength to strength. So who knows what the future holds for the village of Ballinamallard and its surrounding areas?